It's Mike from MD Airsoft. Today I'm going to go over basic pistol maintenance, cleaning it, relubing it, and why it's important. It's important because there's a lot of metal on metal parts rubbing against each other, and that causes friction, which causes material from the metal to just wear off. This will cause the gun to malfunction. There's a sear which locks the hammer back, which allows it to shoot. That can it won't lock back and the pistol will stop functioning. So I got some products here that I use. This is how I do clean my pistol. Seems to work pretty good. You don't need to go overboard with tons of lube, just enough. Some players will clean their gun after every use. That's fine, totally fine. Every few games is probably what I recommend, just to keep everything working and just to increase the longevity of your pistol. So before we begin, obviously take the mag out, make sure the gun is safe, no BBs in it. Now if you have a USP, the HK45, M9, 1911, they all come apart pretty much the same way. Sorry, the M9 has a switch, but if you can see here, there's a little notch out in the slide. Pull it back, you want to line it up with the opposite end of this arm so it can come out easily. And slide it back and then forward, and your upper slide comes off. Most pistols have something similar to that. Glocks, instead of a pin, will have two tabs on each side that you hold down and you have to rack it. If you have any questions or can't figure out your pistol, just let us know. We'll gladly go over that for you. So first thing I like to do is get these cotton wipes. If you have an old cotton shirt or whatever, you can use those as well. Just any kind of rag, and just wipe off all the old stuff. Old stuff can contain dust, dirt, from using it. It's a thick synthetic grease that you use, so it can collect stuff. Now, if this is where the over lubing comes in. If you use a ton of this stuff, it'll get all gunky and it'll start to spray off the sides and get on your hands and stuff. You just want to give it a thorough wiping. Get all the old stuff off as much as you can. If you need to get into the deep parts, I just put the rag on top there. Take the head of like a Torx or a small screw and then just kind of get in there with it. Okay, looks pretty good. Okay, I'll go over the upper in a minute. So now this is the main area, the trigger group, or so like the hammer, the trigger group that you want to maintain. A lot of, if you were to move this whole piece, there's springs, a lot of metal on metal contacting. So you want to protect these parts and make them last longer. So I use a ultra slick multi-purpose synthetic grease. You can get this. I'm from Canada, so I usually go to Canadian Tire. Whatever kind of hardware store that were near you should have some kind of synthetic grease. So I just take a Q-tip, kind of squish it between my fingers to get all like the little hairs down and stuff. Take a little bit and then just start applying it into the trigger and hammer assembly. Again, you don't have to go crazy, just enough to coat everything so that it reduces the friction between the parts. Okay. A little bit more. Okay, that looks good. I also like to, you don't have to do this, I do it, just a little bit on the rails where the actual slide slides back and forth on it. Again, metal on metal, you know, can cause friction. This just gives it a little extra smoothness, or you may not notice it, but you know, it definitely helps. Anytime you can reduce the friction is a good thing. Let's do the other slide here, or sorry, the other side, not slide. Okay, so light coating, any excess off. Okay, and that's the lower. I'll switch to the upper. So the upper is where the actual gas gets expelled from the mag into the nozzle, which shoots out the barrel. So I'm going to take my outer barrel and inner barrel out. Let's move this aside. Okay, set my barrel aside. And now I have the gas block. The nozzle should move back and forth. It should have the springs in it. As you can see, it's moving back. If your springs are damaged, you want to replace those, as it can affect the performance of the gun. If you look on the inside, there's a piece of green. It looks green. That's actually a rubber O-ring. You want to make sure that's lubricated. And for the gas block and your mag, you want to use silicone oil instead of grease. The grease would just gum it all up and nothing would happen. Usually your pistol comes with a little bottle. You can go to Airsoft Parts Canada and get the Airsoft Innovations gas oil. So I just take a couple drops just right in there. Okay, move it back and forth to kind of work it around. And I'll just do a drop down the sides of the nozzle, just to make sure that it's moving nice and freely. Okay, it returns. And that's it for the upper. Again, you don't have to since you did the bottom, but the channels on the side of the rail, you can use some of the synthetic grease to clean that. Lastly, clean your barrel of the inner barrel of the pistol. Lots of dirt and just stuff can get shut down there. So what I do is just take these cotton swabs, again, take a piece of it off. Like so. Use your rod cleaner, your unjamming rod, cleaning rod, whatever you want to call it. Now if you're leaving the hop-up on, make sure your hop-up is turned off so you don't damage the rubber inside. Kind of gauge how far you can go, okay, because you don't want to go all the way through to damage the rubber inside. Just kind of give it some twists. Okay, barrel's a little bit dirty. And reassemble your gun. Now if you need help with this step, again, if you're not sure how to disassemble your pistol, feel free to post and ask, and we'll be more than happy to go over that with you. Okay. Upper back on. Same thing, line up that notch. Put the arm back through. Rack it a few times. Make sure everything's seated properly. And the last thing you can do is maintenance on the actual slide itself, it is metal. The greases from your fingers can, stay on here, and it can rust over time if you leave it. Just take some silicone lube, or you can even actually use the lube from the silicone oil. Spray a little bit on the cloth, and then just wipe down your slide. Just removes all the oils from your fingers and prevents like rust buildup and oxidation of the metal. Okay. Now for your mag, set everything aside here. Now a lot of people start complaining that their mag's leaking. Well, it can leak from 3 different places. Let me take this cap off here, and I will show you. Most mags will have pins on the bottom. These pins hold down this base cap. As you can see, it's squared out. If you remove those pins, the whole cap will come out with the fill valve. So it can actually release. There is an O-ring, a square O-ring, that when you push this cap down, it sits against. It can leak from the fill valve, and it can also leak from the knocker valve. So again, the biggest step is propane. Propane or green gas, people think that it's different. It's actually not. Green gas is propane, except the green gas has oil already mixed into the propane. So I always use one of these, better bang for your buck. It's no different than green gas. If you get a nozzle, a fill nozzle like this, okay, it can actually put silicone oil in, and as you fill your mag, it's gonna put silicone oil into the mag. If you don't have one of these, if you just have a basic nozzle, you can take your oil, your gas oil, just drip it in there, drip it in the actual opening, close your valve up, and now you have green gas. So what the oil does is lubricates the O-rings inside, the fill valve O-rings and the knocker valve. Prevents the O-rings inside from drying out. If they dry out, you'll notice it starts to, you'll hear a hissing if you hold it up to your ear. This is a valve key, pretty handy to have. First thing you do if you hear a leak, you can just make sure that the actual knocker valve and fill valve are tight. If it's still leaking, you have to determine if it's from the square O-ring or the fill valve. Again, you can just fill up some water in a bowl, put it in, and just see where it's leaking. Now to fix this, it's going to be a separate video. I will go over how to a couple different ways how to seal your mags up so it won't happen again. But the biggest thing is make sure that you are lubing your mags as well with the silicone oil. Okay. I recommend leaving your mags in storage with propane in them. It doesn't have to be full charge, just half a second burst. What this will do is keep pressure inside, and it'll keep the O-rings expanded so they don't dry or shrink in size. So that's it for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. If you have any questions on different guns, pistols, how to take them apart, again, leave them in the comments. This is Mike from MD Airsoft. Thanks for watching.